Poor twins save a billionaire's son from a mugging. He thanks them emotionally. But one looks at him and says, "It's you, Dad." What happens next will give you chills. The rain poured without stopping that Wednesday morning, as if the sky knew what was coming. Claire stirred her coffee in a blue mug, Grant's favorite, as she watched her daughters play in the living room. Hannah stacked colorful blocks while Iris, her little sister with curly hair, tried to knock the tower down, her laughter filling their small home. "Mum, do you think Dad will like the drawing I made?" Hannah asked, holding up a sheet covered in colorful scribbles. Claire smiled, hiding the knot tightening in her chest. "Of course he will, sweetheart." But the smile vanished when she heard the front door open. Grant walked in, not wearing his usual tired smile, but with a look Claire had never seen before. He was carrying a suitcase. "We need to talk," he said, avoiding looking at the girls who ran toward him. "Daddy, Daddy!" they shouted in unison, clinging to his legs. Grant gently patted their heads and asked them to go play in the bedroom. Reluctantly, they obeyed, though not before Hannah placed her drawing in her father's hand. "What's going on?" Claire asked, her voice firmer than she felt. "I'm leaving, Claire." 3 words, just 3 words to shatter everything. "What do you mean you're leaving? Where to?" "Why?" Grant set the drawing on the table as if it were too heavy to carry. "Things aren't working between us, you know that." The floor seemed to disappear beneath Claire's feet. Over the past few months, she had noticed the growing distance, the late nights as the work excuses, but she never imagined it would come to this. Not working. "We have 2 4-year-old daughters, Grant. 2 girls who adore you." From the bedroom came the girls' innocent laughter, unaware of the storm devastating their lives at that very moment. "I can't do this anymore, Claire. I need to live my own life." Claire felt her blood boil. "Your own life? And what about Hannah and Iris? Aren't they part of your life?" He averted his gaze. "I met someone else, Claire." The words hit her like a slap. Someone else. Vanessa, from the office. Claire knew Vanessa. Young, beautiful, no children, no responsibilities. "You're leaving us," was for her. "I'm starting over, Claire. No ties, no obligations. I need this chance." "And your daughters? Are they just ties to you?" Grant picked up his suitcase. "I've decided I'll stop by my mother's house to pick up a few things, then I'll go to her apartment." "Look at your daughters before you leave. Have the courage to look at them." He hesitated for a moment, then walked to the door. "It's better this way, no goodbyes. They're little. They'll forget in time." The door closed, and with it, a part of Claire's life. For a few minutes she stood frozen, staring into nothingness, until Iris's voice brought her back. "Mommy, where's Daddy?" He had to go away, sweetheart, for work. "He didn't see my tower. I made it really tall." Claire swallowed the lump in her throat and forced a smile. "Let's take a photo and send it to him later. How about that?" That night was the longest of Claire's life. The girls asked about their father several times before bed. She made excuses, saying he had traveled for work. When they finally fell asleep, Claire cried until she had no more tears. The next morning, the phone rang. It was the landlord. Grant hadn't paid rent for the last 3 months, and they were being evicted. Claire was given 1 week to move out. "How could you do this, Grant?" she whispered to the empty apartment as she began packing the few belongings they had. 7 days later, Claire and the girls were on the street. She called Grant's mother, who hung up as soon as she heard who it was. She called friends, who offered their couch for a few days. But you know how it is, we don't really have space for kids. She called her own mother, who lived out of state and could barely support herself. Then Claire saw the advertisement. "Housekeeper needed, can live in the church's back quarters." The church was small, set back from the town center. Pastor Martin, an elderly man with white hair and a kind smile, showed her the little room out back. It was cramped, with just 1 bathroom, a small kitchenette, and a space that would serve as both bedroom and living room. "It's not much, but it's clean, and there's a playground for the girls right next to it," he said, pointing to a small play area beside the church. "It's perfect," Claire said, holding back tears. "When can I start?" "Tomorrow, if that works. And don't worry about the girls while you work. My wife loves children." That night, in her new, modest home, Claire made the girls' beds, Mattresses on the floor, but clean, with colorful sheets she bought with the last of her money. "Mommy, is this an adventure?" Hannah asked, looking around. "Yes, my love, a big adventure." "And will Daddy come on the adventure too?" Iris asked, her eyes shining with hope. Claire swallowed hard. "No, sweetheart. Daddy is on a different adventure now." "But he'll come back, right?" Claire hugged her daughters tightly. "It's just us three now, my little ones, and we'll be okay, I promise." In the days that followed, Claire established a routine. She woke early, made the girls breakfast, then dropped them off with Mrs. Martha, the pastor's wife, before cleaning the church. In the afternoons, she cleaned houses in the neighborhood. At night, she played with the girls, read stories, and cried silently after they fell asleep. Claire tried calling Grant several times in the first few weeks. She wanted to tell him the girls asked about him. She wanted to say they needed help, but his number no longer worked. One afternoon, while cleaning the Tavares family's house, she saw an open magazine on the table. In the social section, a photo caught her eye. Grant and Vanessa, smiling at a company event. The caption read, "The couple of the moment celebrates Grant Barrett's promotion to regional director." The cleaning rag slipped from her hands. He was doing well, he was happy, while she and the girls struggled to survive. One day, while Claire helped the girls get dressed for kindergarten, Hannah asked, "Mom, why doesn't Daddy call?" Claire took a deep breath. "Sometimes people need time, sweetheart. He doesn't love us anymore." Claire's heart ached. How to explain to a 4-year-old that her own father had abandoned them? "Your daddy. He's living his own life now. But that doesn't mean you're not special." "And he's never coming back?" Iris asked, her big eyes filling with tears. Claire hugged her daughters tightly. "I don't know, my love, but what I do know is that the three of us have each other. And that's very important." As the months passed, Claire got a better job as a receptionist at a veterinary clinic, where she could bring the girls after school. Gradually, she built a new life for them. One day, Claire received a call that left her paralyzed. It was Grant's cousin. "Claire, I'm sorry to call out of the blue, but I thought you should know. Grant and Vanessa are expecting a baby. He announced it to the family yesterday." The phone slipped from her hand. A child. Grant was having a child with Vanessa, while he had abandoned the 2 daughters he already had. That night, tucking the girls into bed, Iris asked, "Moms, why don't we have a dad like other kids?" Claire sat on the edge of the makeshift bed. "Some families are different, my love. In some, there's a mom and a dad. In others, only a mom or only a dad. The important thing is that there is love." "And doesn't our daddy love us?" The question hit Claire like a punch. How to answer that? Love is complicated, sweetheart, but what matters is that I love you too more than anything in the world. And we'll be okay, together. While the girls slept, Claire looked out the small window of their room. The moon shone in the star-filled sky. There was so much to do, so much to overcome. But for the first time since Grant left, she felt a certainty grow inside her. They would be okay, not because he would come back, but because she would never leave. 4 years had passed since Grant abandoned his family. Hannah and Iris, now 8 years old, walked through the city's Central Park during Jefferson Elementary's Spring Festival. Their simple dresses, hand-me-downs from a neighbor, were carefully cleaned and ironed for the special occasion. Hannah wore a faded blue cardigan over her dress, while Iris had a colorful ribbon, her birthday gift from the year before, in her hair. The festival entrance had been free this year, much to Claire's relief, who couldn't have afforded tickets otherwise, even with the extra hours she worked at the diner. "Look, Hannah, helium balloons." Iris pointed to a vendor across the square, her eyes shining with longing. But both knew they couldn't ask. The $5 their mother had given them was meant for a snack later, not extras. "They're pretty," Hannah agreed, already pulling her sister away from temptation. "Let's check out the game booths." As they made their way around a quieter area of the park, Hannah noticed a small boy, around 4 or 5, standing alone near a bench. He wore new, expensive clothes, light-up sneakers, and held a colorful superhero backpack. The contrast with their own worn clothes didn't escape Hannah, but what caught her attention was the boy's frightened look. "That boy looks lost," Hannah remarked, her protective nature immediately kicking in. Before they could move closer, a man in a dark cap began walking toward the boy. Something in the way he glanced around, checking if anyone was watching, set off alarm bells in Hannah's head. She knew that kind of behavior from the rough neighborhoods where she lived. "Iris, I think that man is going to do something bad," she whispered, gripping her sister's hand. The two watched as the man approached the boy, who stepped back, clutching his backpack like a shield. "He's going to steal that boy's backpack," Hannah whispered, alarmed. Without hesitation, she grabbed Iris's hand and they ran across the square. As they neared, they heard the man say, "Come on, kid, give me that nice backpack. I bet you have cool stuff in there." "And those shoes too." "No, it's mine. My dad gave it to me," the boy protested, his eyes welling with tears as he clutched his backpack tightly. "Hey!" Hannah shouted as she arrived. "Leave him alone." The man turned, surprised. He hadn't expected to be interrupted, especially by two skinny girls in simple clothes. "Get lost, brats." "This isn't your business," he snarled, his breath smelling of cheap cigarettes. Iris, usually the shy one, picked up a rock from the ground. "We'll call the police." The man laughed harshly. "Oh yeah, who's going to believe you?" He glared at their worn clothes, his contempt obvious. Hannah recognized that look. It was the same one she got from mall security guards who followed her, assuming she was a thief just because of her simple clothes. But instead of intimidating her, it only fueled her determination. Without a second thought, she took a deep breath and yelled as loud as she could. "Help! Thief! Somebody help!" Her shout echoed across the square. People started looking in their direction. The man, realizing he was drawing too much attention, muttered curses under his breath. "You little pests," he muttered before quickly backing away, disappearing among the trees. The boy trembled, clutching his backpack to his chest as if his life depended on it. His blue eyes, wide with fear, now looked at the girls with gratitude and admiration. "Are you okay?" Hannah asked, her voice softening. He nodded, sniffling. He wanted my new backpack. And my shoes." "It's okay now. He's gone," Iris said, stepping forward with a shy smile. "What's your name?" "Leo," he replied, seeming a bit calmer. "Leo Barrett." "Are you lost?" Hannah asked, noticing the boy looking anxiously around. Leo nodded, tears still fresh in his eyes. "My dad brought me to see the festival, but I saw a puppy and went to look, and then I couldn't find him." "Don't worry," Iris said kindly. "We'll help you find your dad." "What does he look like?" Hannah asked, scanning the area for any adult looking for a child. "He's tall," Leo said, stretching his hand above his head, "and he has hair like mine." He pointed to his own light brown hair. Hannah nodded, thinking that description could fit half the men in the park. "What's his name?" Before Leo could answer, a desperate voice cut through the air. "Leo! Leo, where are you?" The girls turned toward the voice. A man ran along the side of the square, his face pale with worry. He wore an immaculate dark suit, white shirt and navy tie, clothes that looked like they came straight from a high-end store. Unlike everyone else in the park, dressed casually, he looked like he'd come directly from an important business meeting. "Dad!" Leo shouted, his face lighting up with relief. The man ran to them, so focused on his son that he barely registered the girls standing nearby. He knelt without concern for his expensive suit and hugged Leo tightly. "Thank God you're okay. You had me so worried. Never run off like that again." "Sorry, Dad," Leo murmured against his shoulder. "A bad man tried to take my backpack, but these girls helped me." Only then did the man look up to thank the children who had helped his son. When his gaze met Hannah's, it was as if time stopped. Grant Barrett stared at his eldest daughter's face for the first time in 4 years. Hannah felt a chill run through her body. Those eyes, the same eyes she saw every morning in the mirror, older, with a few wrinkles at the corners that weren't there before, but unmistakably the same. "Dad?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "Is that really you, Dad?" Iris, realizing who the man was, widened her eyes and grasped her sister's hand tightly, as if she needed an anchor to avoid being swept away by the wave of emotions. Grant looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. He stood frozen, holding Leo in his arms, color draining from his face, eyes fixed on the two girls he once called his daughters. "Hannah, Iris, he finally managed to say, his voice barely audible. A heavy silence fell over them. Leo looked confused, glancing from his father to the girls. You helped Leo?" Grant asked, still stunned, as if he couldn't fully process the situation. Hannah nodded, not taking her eyes off him. 4 years of unasked questions, of tears hidden in her pillow, of birthdays spent waiting for a phone call that never came. Everything seemed to crystallize at that moment. "A man tried to steal his backpack," she replied, surprised by the strength in her own voice. "We yelled and he ran away." I don't know how to thank you," Grant said, his voice choked. He looked at his daughters as if seeing ghosts, noticing every detail, their simple clothes, Hannah's patched cardigan, Iris's faded ribbon, their worn shoes. The contrast with his own expensive suit and Leo's immaculate outfit was striking. You've grown so much." 4 years is a long time," Hannah replied, with a maturity no child her age should have. Leo looked confused, glancing between his father and the girls. "Dad, why did they call you Dad?" Grant swallowed hard, still unable to take his eyes off his daughters. "Because—" He hesitated, clearly searching for the right words to explain the inexplicable to a 4-year-old. "Because they're your sisters, Leo." Leo's eyes widened in surprise. "I have sisters?" "Half-sisters," Hannah corrected, the term bitter on her tongue. She looked directly at Grant. "Why didn't you ever come back?" The question struck Grant like lightning. He lowered his eyes, unable to meet his daughter's gaze. Guilt was written in every line of his face. "It's complicated, Hannah." "No, it's not," she answered, the words escaping before she could stop them. "You left and never came back. You have another child. You have money to buy fancy suits, give superhero backpacks and new sneakers, but you never sent even a birthday card to us. That's not complicated. It's simple." Grant closed his eyes for a moment, as if every word were a physical blow. "You're right," he finally said. "It's not complicated. I made a terrible mistake." "We need to go," Hannah said, taking Iris's hand. "Mom is waiting." "Wait," Grant pleaded, desperate. "Please, I need to talk to you. To thank you for helping Leo." "You've already thanked us," Hannah replied coldly. "Please," Grant insisted. "Just a minute." Hannah hesitated, looking at her sister. Iris gave a small nod. Despite all the anger, there was a part of Hannah that still wanted answers, that still wanted to understand. "1 minute," she agreed. Grant put Leo down but kept his hand on the boy's shoulder. He knelt at the girl's level, and for a moment he seemed at a loss for words, how to sum up 4 years of absence in words that would make sense. "Hannah, Iris, you were very brave today. Not only for helping Leo, but for everything. I know I have no right to ask, but how are you? How is your mother?" "We're fine," Hannah replied curtly. "Mom works 2 jobs now. She's always tired but says everything is okay." Grant closed his eyes briefly, absorbing the blow. "Why didn't you ever call us? Not even on our birthdays?" Hannah asked, her voice trembling despite trying to sound strong. "I have no excuses," Grant responded. I was cowardly. I was selfish. There's no justification for what I did to you." Leo, still confused, tugged on the sleeve of his father's suit. "Are they really my sisters, Dad?" "They are, son. Your older sisters." "Why don't they live with us?" Leo asked, with the cruel innocence of children. "Because your father left us," Hannah answered before Grant could speak. "He chose another family." The words hung in the air like knives. Grant didn't try to deny or soften them. It was the raw truth, and everyone there knew it. "We need to go," Hannah repeated, pulling her sister's hand. "Goodbye, Dad." "Wait," Grant begged, desperate. Can I talk to you again? Please, let me try to fix things." Hannah looked at him for a long moment. She wanted to say no, wanted to say they didn't need him, but a part of her, the part that was still just an 8-year-old girl missing her father, hesitated. "Ask Mom," she finally said. It was the safe answer. She knew her mother would never allow it. The 2 girls turned and began walking back toward the main area of the festival. As they walked away, Hannah couldn't help but notice how the sun reflected on the expensive watch on Grant's wrist, how his suit looked perfectly tailored, how Leo held his superhero backpack that probably cost more than all the clothes Hannah and Iris owned together. "Hannah," Iris whispered as they walked, "was that really Dad?" "It was," Hannah replied, holding her sister's hand. "He looks different. He's rich now, Iris. He doesn't need us anymore." Iris was silent for a moment, taking in her sister's words. "The boy seemed nice." "Yeah," Hannah agreed, with a lump in her throat. "He did." Meanwhile, Grant stood frozen, watching his daughters walk away, two small figures hand in simple clothes and wounded dignity. "Dad, why did they call you Dad?" Leo asked again, his 4-year-old mind still trying to process the situation. Grant knelt down to be at eye level with his son. "Because before you were born, Leo, I was already their father. They are your sisters." "Why didn't you tell me?" Leo asked, surprised. Grant felt a lump in his throat. How to explain to a 4-year-old that he had abandoned 2 daughters? How to say he was a coward who ran from his responsibilities? Because sometimes adults make mistakes so big that they're ashamed to talk about them. "They don't have nice clothes like mine," Leo observed innocently. Grant felt as if he had been punched in the gut. The boy's simple observation highlighted the chasm between his children's lives. Leo, raised in comfort and privilege, Hannah and Iris, wearing second-hand clothes and counting coins. "No, they don't," Grant admitted, his voice thick. "Can we give them clothes?" Leo asked. Grant looked at his son, surprised by the child's simple generosity. "That would be nice, Leo. But it's more complicated than just giving clothes." "They are nice. They saved me from a bad man," Leo said. "Yes, they are," Grant confirmed, his voice choked. "They are more than I deserve. Can we see them again?" Grant looked toward the park, in the direction where his daughters had disappeared into the crowd. 2 small figures, hand in hand, in simple clothes and wounded dignity. "I hope so, son. I really hope so." As they walked back to the car, a late-model SUV parked in the park's reserved area, Grant couldn't stop thinking about the contrast. Leo's light-up shoes versus Hannah's worn shoes, Leo's new superhero backpack versus Hannah's patched cardigan, his own $4,000 suit versus Iris's simple hand-me-down dress. "Is that you, Dad?" Hannah's words echoed in his mind like an accusation. Yes, it was him. The man who had chosen a new life and abandoned the old one. The man who wore expensive suits but never sent a penny to his own daughters. The past he had tried to bury for 4 years had come back without warning, and now Grant knew nothing would ever be the same. The car pulled up silently in front of an old brick building that felt out of place in the neighborhood. Grant turned off the engine and sat still, looking at the worn concrete steps, the small windows with thin curtains, the chipped paint on the door. His fingers tapped nervously on the steering wheel. The address had been hard to find. He'd had to hire a private investigator, which made him feel even more guilty. In the passenger seat was a bag with children's books carefully chosen. He had spent hours in the bookstore trying to remember what Hannah and Iris liked. Would they still like the same things? 4 years was a long time, especially when children grow so fast. "You can do this," he muttered to himself, taking a deep breath. "You have to do this." The building had no intercom. Grant got out of the car, crossed the street, and climbed the worn steps to the 3rd floor. The stairwell smelled of mildew and cheap cleaning products. The hallway was narrow, with flickering fluorescent lights overhead. Apartment 3C. He stopped in front of the chipped wooden door with its crooked metal numbers. His heart pounded so loudly he could hear it in his ears. He raised his hand to knock, but hesitated. What if Claire wasn't home? And if she was? What if she didn't want to see him? What if the girls hated him completely? It didn't matter, he had to try. 3 soft knocks on the door. The sound seemed deafening in the silent hallway. For a moment, nothing happened. Then he heard movement inside the apartment, light footsteps. The door opened a few inches, held by the security chain. Claire stared at him through the gap, and for a moment, Grant saw the young woman he had fallen in love with years ago, but only for a moment. Her face looked thinner, with lines of fatigue around her eyes and mouth. Her hair, once always neat, was pulled back in a messy bun, strands escaping at the sides. She wore a diner uniform, as if she'd just come home from work. Her eyes widened in recognition, then narrowed. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice low and tense. Claire, he said, hating how his own voice sounded strange and formal. Can I talk to you, please? How did you find where we live? He hesitated. I hired someone to find out. Her expression hardened further. So you have money for that, but not for child support. The blow hit him hard. Grant swallowed. I deserve that. I deserve everything you want to say. Please, can we talk? Claire was silent for a few seconds, studying him. Finally, she closed the door, removed the chain, and reopened it fully. 5 minutes, she said, not moving to let him in. The girls are in their room. Grant nodded, grateful for at least that. I found Hannah and Iris at the park last week. They helped Leo when someone tried to rob him. I know, Claire said, folding her arms. They told me. I want to apologize, Claire, for what I did to you. To you all. Claire looked at him steadfastly, her eyes as hard as stone. You have no right to show up like this, she said, her voice trembling slightly with contained anger. You abandoned us, Grant. For 4 years. Without a word, without a penny, not even a birthday call for the girls. I know, he said, lowering his eyes. You know, do you really know? Her voice was cutting. Do you know what it's like to work 2 jobs and still barely pay rent? Do you know what it's like to see your daughters wearing charity clothes while you paraded around with your new child? Each word was like a knife. Grant knew he deserved all of it, and more. Claire, I was a coward, a horrible, selfish coward. There's no excuse for what I did. And now you want what, to start over from scratch? She asked, incredulous. You think you can just show up here and everything will be fine? No, he said quickly. I don't expect that. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I just want to try to do something right. For the girls. Claire let out a bitter laugh. 4 years later, when they've already learned to live without you. Grant had no response. He handed over the bag of books. I brought these for them. Claire looked at the bag but didn't take it. They don't need your charity, they needed a father. The words hit Grant like a punch to the stomach. I know, he said, his voice thick. I failed you, completely. A movement at the back of the apartment caught his attention. For a brief moment, Grant glimpsed Hannah and Iris peeking from the hallway. When they realized he had seen them, they quickly backed away. Claire followed his gaze and sighed. You need to go. Claire, please. I want to do what's right. Help financially, at least. It's the least I can do. Now, after 4 years. She shook her head. How you should have thought of that sooner. I know, but it's not too late to try to fix things, even a little. Claire studied him for a long moment. The girls don't need chaos in their lives. They've suffered enough. I understand, he said, resigned. Can I at least leave the books? Claire hesitated, then took the bag. Goodbye, Grant. She closed the door. Grant stood still, looking at the scuffed wood, feeling the weight of his choices like never before. 3 days later, Grant returned. This time, he brought treats from the nicest bakery in town, elaborate cupcakes and colorful candies he knew the girls would love. Claire opened the door with the same hard expression, but didn't send him away immediately. I brought these for the girls, he said, holding out the box of sweets. Can I see them? Claire hesitated. They're doing homework. I understand. I don't want to interfere. I just wanted to drop this off. After a moment, Claire took the box. I'll ask if they want to see you. I can't promise anything. Grant nodded, his heart racing. Claire closed the door, leaving him waiting in the hallway. He could hear muffled voices inside. After a few minutes that felt like an eternity, the door opened again. Iris stood there, partially hidden behind her mother, looking at him with curious eyes. Hannah was nowhere to be seen. Hi, Iris, Grant said, kneeling to meet her at eye level. How are you? I'm good, she replied shyly. Thanks for the books. You're welcome. Did you like them? Iris nodded. I liked the one about the astronaut princess. Grant smiled, feeling a small victory. That's great. I brought some treats for you and Hannah. She didn't want to come, Iris said bluntly. She said she's busy. Claire placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. 5 minutes, Iris, then you need to get back to your homework. Claire stepped back, letting her daughter talk to her father, but staying nearby, watching closely. Did you like the books I brought?" Grant asked awkwardly. Iris nodded. "Mom read them to us last night." "That's wonderful," he said, smiling. "I remembered that you liked stories about brave princesses." "I still do," Iris said, relaxing a little, "but now I also like adventure stories and science." "Science? That's great, Iris." The conversation continued for a few minutes, with Iris gradually opening up more. Grant hung on every word, every expression, trying to store it all in his memory. When Claire finally said time was up, he felt as if he had been given a precious gift. "Can I come back tomorrow?" he asked, looking at Claire. She hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "If the girls want you to." The next day, Grant returned with art supplies, sketchbooks, colored pencils, paints, and brushes. This time, Iris greeted him with a small smile, less shy than before. "Is Hannah home?" he asked, trying not to seem too eager. "She's in her room," Iris replied. "She doesn't want to come out." Claire, watching from the kitchen, sighed. "Give her time, Grant, don't push." He nodded, understanding. He spent the next hour drawing with Iris at the kitchen table, listening to her talk about school, friends, and her dreams of being both an astronaut and a veterinarian. Grant absorbed every detail, realizing how much he had missed. The next day, when he returned, Grant brought a board game. To his surprise, it was Hannah who opened the door. She didn't smile or speak, just stepped aside to let him in. It was progress, however small. "Hi, Hannah," he said, trying to steady his trembling voice. "How are you?" She shrugged, her face unreadable. "You brought a game." "Yes. I thought maybe we could play together if you'd like." Hannah looked at the box, then at him. "Okay." They sat in the small living room, with Iris quickly joining them, excited about the new game. Claire watched from the kitchen, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. The game progressed in a tense silence, broken only by Iris's enthusiastic exclamations. Hannah played methodically, rarely speaking unless necessary. Grant felt her assessing him every time he wasn't looking. It was during the second round that Hannah finally spoke. "Why do you keep coming?" she asked abruptly, when it was her turn to roll the dice. Grant looked at her, surprised by the direct question. "Because I want to be close to you." "Now you want to," she said, her voice cold. "Before you didn't." "Hannah," Claire began in a warning tone. "No, she's right," Grant said. "You're right, Hannah. Before, I didn't want to. I made the worst mistake of my life." "You want the title of Dad now?" Hannah asked, her eyes hard. "Is that it?" Grant took a deep breath. "No," he replied, surprising everyone, including himself. "I don't want the title of Dad. I don't deserve it." Hannah blinked, clearly not expecting that answer. "I want to earn that place if you let me," he continued. "I know I don't deserve it. I know I failed. But if you give me a chance, I want to try to do better. Not to erase what I did, because that's impossible, but maybe to build something new." A heavy silence fell over the room. Iris looked from Grant to Hannah, her eyes wide. Claire watched everything from the kitchen, her face unreadable. "You have another child," Hannah finally said. "A new life." "Yes," Grant admitted, "and that makes what I did to you even worse. Because it shows I could be a father. I just chose not to be for you." The raw honesty of his response seemed to hit Hannah. She looked down, lips pressed together. "Leo asks about you," Grant said softly. "He would like to meet his sisters." "Half-sisters," Hannah automatically corrected. "Sisters," Grant insisted. "So you share the same father, no matter how terrible that father has been." Another silence followed. Finally, Hannah shrugged. "Whatever," she said, returning to the game, but she didn't leave the room. That was a start. As they played, Grant couldn't help but notice the apartment's conditions: the worn couch they sat on, the coffee table with one leg propped up on books, the stained carpet, the noisy fan struggling against the heat. This was the world where his daughters had grown up without him. A world he could have made better if he hadn't been so selfish. "Do you need anything?" he asked Claire, looking at her. "Anything. I want to help." Claire opened her mouth to refuse, but Hannah interrupted her. "We need a lot of things," she said challengingly. Rent is overdue. The fan is broken. The fridge makes noise all night. Iris needs new glasses. Hannah, Claire scolded, shocked by her daughter's frankness. Fair's true, isn't it? Hannah retorted. He wants to help, right? So help with things that matter, not with games and sweets. Grant felt the blow, but also a strange relief. Hannah's brutal honesty was better than silence or indifference. You're absolutely right, he said. I will help with all that. And anything else you need? Hannah stared at him, as if trying to determine if he was sincere. After a moment, she nodded slowly. We'll see, she said simply, before returning to the game. It was more than Grant had hoped for. It was a door, neither fully open nor completely closed. A chance, however small, and he was determined not to waste it. 2 weeks had passed since Grant began visiting the girls regularly. He had kept his promise. The rent was up to date. A new fan had been installed, the fridge was repaired, and Iris got new glasses with purple frames she loved. The changes in the apartment were subtle but significant. It wasn't an ostentatious renovation, just small comforts that made a difference in daily life. Claire still kept her distance, but the girls were gradually opening up. Iris already called him Dad occasionally, while Hannah remained cautious, though her harsh tone had softened slightly. It was during one of these visits that Grant finally mustered the courage to make the proposal he had been planning. I'd like to bring Leo to meet you, he said after the girls finished showing him their homework. If you'd like, of course. Iris immediately looked to her sister, as she always did when an important decision needed to be made. Hannah kept her eyes on her workbook, pencil poised over the page. Why? She asked finally. Because he's your brother, Grant replied simply. And he really wants to meet you. He's been talking about you since that day in the park. Half-brother, Hannah automatically corrected, though without her usual harshness. How old is he? Iris asked, curious. 4, almost 5, Grant answered. Hannah finally lifted her gaze. Does he know about you? About what you did? Grant swallowed hard. Even now, Hannah's direct frankness disarmed him completely. He knows I have other daughters and that I didn't live with you, Grant said, choosing his words carefully. He's too young to understand everything, but he knows I made a very big mistake. Hannah nodded slowly, processing the information. And his mother, does she know you come here? Another hard blow. Yes, Grant said, she knows. What he didn't mention were the tense discussions, the long silences, the veiled accusations that had become part of their marriage since he reconnected with his first family. Vanessa had never fully accepted the idea of him rebuilding a relationship with his previous children. She doesn't like us, Hannah stated, not as a question but as a fact. Grant sighed. She doesn't know you, Hannah. She's insecure about the whole situation. Because you abandoned us for her, Hannah finished, relentless in her logic. Hannah, Claire interjected from the kitchen, pretending not to be listening to the conversation. No, it's okay, Grant said. She's right. It's complicated, but I won't lie to you, never again. A heavy silence hung in the room, broken only by the ticking of the newly repaired clock on the wall. I want to meet him, Iris said finally. He seemed nice. All eyes turned to Hannah. She shrugged in a gesture Grant was beginning to interpret, not as indifference, but as her way of processing complex emotions. Whatever, she said, as she returned to her homework. He can come. Grant felt a wave of relief and gratitude. Thank you. How about Saturday? We could go to the park, maybe get ice cream afterward. Okay, Hannah replied, still not looking up. But Grant noticed her shoulders were less tense, and there was a softness in her voice that hadn't been there before. Saturday arrived bright and mild, perfect for a trip to the park. Grant drove to Vanessa's house to pick up Leo, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. When he rang the doorbell, he was greeted by an overexcited Leo holding a colorful drawing. Dad? I made this for my sisters, he exclaimed, holding out a sheet where 3 stick figures, a larger one and 2 smaller, held hands beneath a smiling sun. It's beautiful, champ, Grant said, his heart tightening at his son's innocence. I'm sure they'll love it. Vanessa appeared behind the boy, arms crossed, her face a carefully composed mask. She looked as polished as always, but Grant could see tension in her posture. "Bring his jacket," she instructed, not as a question but as an order. "It might get chilly later." "Of course," Grant agreed, grabbing the small blue jacket hanging by the door. "We won't be back late." "You said you'd take me to meet my sisters," Leo reminded him, tugging on his father's sleeve. Vanessa tensed visibly but maintained a forced smile. "Have fun, sweetie. Be good." "He always behaves," Grant said, trying to ease the tension. Vanessa only nodded before crouching to place a kiss on her son's forehead. "Mommy loves you," she said, as if she needed to remind him specifically today. "I love you too," Leo replied cheerfully, already tugging Grant toward the car. "Let's go, Dad. I want to see my sisters." During the drive, Leo didn't stop talking. He wanted to know everything about Hannah and Iris, their favorite colors, if they had pets, if they knew how to ride a bike. Grant answered as best he could, feeling sadness at how much he still didn't know about his own daughters. When they arrived at the building, Grant's hands were sweaty on the steering wheel. What if the girls didn't like Leo? What if Leo said something that hurt them in his 4-year-old innocence? What if all the fragile progress was lost in one afternoon? "Come on, Dad," Leo insisted, already trying to unbuckle his seatbelt. "Just a minute, champ," Grant said, turning to look Leo in the eyes. "Remember what we talked about? Your sisters might be a little shy at first." Leo nodded solemnly. "Because they don't know me yet. But they'll like me once they do, right?" Grant's heart clenched. "Of course they will. We just need to give them a bit of time, okay?" "Okay," Leo agreed, turning back to wrestle with his seatbelt. When they knocked on the apartment door, it was Claire who answered. Her gaze flicked briefly to Grant before resting on Leo. "Hello," she said, with a kindness that surprised Grant. "You must be Leo." Leo, suddenly shy, clung to his father's leg and nodded. "These are my sisters," he whispered, looking at the empty apartment behind Claire. "They're getting ready," Claire explained, opening the door wider. "Come in." Grant gently placed his hand on Leo's back and guided him inside. The apartment looked different today, cleaner, more organized, with a simple bouquet of flowers on the kitchen table. Claire had made an effort, Grant realized, feeling a surge of gratitude. "Hannah, Iris, they're here," Claire called out. There was a moment of silence, followed by the sound of a door opening. Hannah appeared first. Wearing jeans and a blue t-shirt, Grant recognized as one of the new clothes he had bought the previous week. Her hair was neatly styled, and she looked nervous, though she tried to hide it. Iris emerged right behind her in a simple yellow dress and her new purple glasses. Unlike her sister, she didn't try to hide her anxiety, fidgeting with her hands in front of her. For a moment, the three children just stared at each other, taking each other in. Then Leo mustered all his 4-year-old courage, took a step forward, and held out the drawing. "I made this for you," he said, his small voice determined. "It's us three." Iris was the first to step forward, adjusting her glasses to see the drawing better. "It's so pretty," she exclaimed genuinely. "You draw really well." Leo's face lit up at the praise. "Really?" "I practiced a lot." Hannah approached more slowly but looked at the drawing too. "Thank you," she said, her voice less certain than usual. "It's nice." "I have lots of toys in the car," Leo announced, now more confident. "Dad said I could bring them to play." Grant noticed the slight tension on Hannah's face when Leo called him Dad so naturally, but she recovered quickly. "Let's go to the park," Grant suggested. "It's a beautiful day out." Claire, watching the scene with an unreadable expression, nodded. "Good idea. Girls, grab your jackets." "I brought my jacket too," Leo proudly announced, showing the blue coat Grant was carrying. The walk to the nearby park was initially silent and awkward. Leo held tightly to Grant's hand, while Hannah and Iris walked a few steps ahead. Occasionally, Leo ran ahead to show his sisters something, an interesting leaf, a shiny rock, a snail on the path. It was when they reached the park that something began to change. There was a small playground with swings, slides, and a sandbox. Leo immediately perked up. "Can we play there?" he asked, pointing to the swings. "Of course," Grant said, "if the girls want to." "I do," Iris said quickly. Hannah shrugged but followed her sister. Grant sat on a nearby bench, watching as the three children headed toward the swings. Leo, too small to climb on by himself, looked at his older sisters expectantly. "Do you need help?" Hannah asked, surprising everyone, including herself. Leo nodded eagerly. Hannah hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward and lifted him onto the swing. "Hold on tight to the chains," she instructed, "like this." "Can you push me?" Leo asked, his eyes shining with excitement. Hannah glanced at Grant, then back at Leo. "Okay," she agreed, positioning herself behind the swing. "Hold on tight." She began to push him gently, and Leo's laughter soon filled the air. "Higher," he asked. "Higher, Hannah." It was the first time he used her name, and Grant noticed how Hannah's face softened when she heard it. She pushed a little harder, making Leo squeal with delight. Iris soon joined, swinging on the swing beside him and trying to go as high as her little legs allowed. "Look, Leo, I'm higher than you." "No, you're not," he protested, laughing. "Hannah, push me higher than Iris." "You two will fall if you go any higher," Hannah warned, but there was a smile forming at the corner of her mouth. Grant watched in awe. Something was happening, something he hadn't dared hope for so soon. A natural connection, as if the children recognized something familiar in one another, beyond the blood they shared. After the swings, Leo wanted to show how fast he could go down the slide like a big kid. Hannah and Iris stood ready at the bottom to catch him if needed, but he slid down on his own, shouting with joy. See how fast I am?" he asked, running back to the slide ladder after his fifth time. "Super fast," Iris confirmed, adjusting her glasses. "Like a rocket." "Do you want to see my toys now?" Leo asked, after climbing down once more. The girls agreed, and Grant walked over with the bag of toys he had brought from the car. Leo immediately began pulling out toy cars, action figures, and small plastic animals, arranging them on the grass. "This is Rex," he introduced, showing a green dinosaur. "He's the strongest of them all. And this is Captain Blue. He can fly and shoot laser beams from his eyes." Iris joined him on the ground, examining the toys with genuine interest. After a moment's hesitation, Hannah also sat down, though keeping a slight distance. "What does this one do?" she asked, pointing to a small robot. Leo's face lit up at the question. "That's Robo-Rex. He can turn into a car and also a plane. Watch." He demonstrated the transformation, and soon they were all involved in an elaborate story about robots and dinosaurs saving a city from evil aliens. Iris crafted dramatic dialogue, Leo made sound effects, and to Grant's surprise, Hannah took charge of the story, creating twists and clever solutions. "And then Robo-Rex uses his special powers to build a bridge so the citizens can escape," she narrated, moving the toy through the air. "Pow, pow, laser eyes!" Leo exclaimed, making Captain Blue fly around Hannah's head. Iris laughed so hard her glasses slipped down her nose. "The aliens are coming. We need the special shield." The story continued, evolving and transforming, the three siblings perfectly in sync in their shared imagination. It was as if they had been playing together their entire lives, instead of just having met. Grant watched from a few feet away, feeling his heart so full it might burst. It was everything he had hoped for and more, the children connecting, finding the universal language of play to overcome the barriers erected by adult mistakes. As the afternoon wore on, Grant suggested ice cream, and the three children eagerly agreed. On the way to the ice cream truck, Leo held Iris's hand naturally, chattering about his favorite flavors. Hannah walked beside them, more reserved but with a gentle smile Grant rarely saw. "They're getting along," he commented, when he caught a moment alone with his eldest daughter. Hannah looked at Leo and Iris in front of them. "He's nice," she admitted. "It's not his fault what happened." Grant felt the weight of her words. "No, it's not," he agreed. "None of this is anyone's fault." At the ice cream truck, they sat at a colorful table by the window. Leo, with his face already smeared with chocolate, excitedly recounted stories about his school and friends. Iris listened attentively, asking questions. Even Hannah seemed interested, gently correcting him when he said the wrong word. It was at that moment, watching the three, Hannah wiping a bit of ice cream from Leo's chin with a napkin, Iris showing how to make a pool of syrup on top of her scoop, Leo absorbing every word and gesture from his sisters, that Grant felt tears form in his eyes. He held them back, not wanting the children to notice, but the lump in his throat was impossible to swallow. Here was what could have been, what should have been, his 3 children together, connected, loving each other. The family he had shattered with his selfish choices was now showing signs of healing, not because of him, but despite him. On the way back, the excitement finally exhausted Leo and he fell asleep in the car. Hannah and Iris said goodbye to him with affection, promising to play again soon. "Can he come back next Saturday?" Iris asked when they got to the apartment. "If you want," Grant replied, looking to Hannah for confirmation. To his surprise, Hannah spoke first. "He can bring Roborex again. We didn't finish our story." Grant felt his heart expand with hope. He'll love that. When the girls entered the apartment, Iris turned and, on impulse, ran back to plant a quick kiss on Grant's cheek. "Thanks for the ice cream, Dad," she said, before disappearing inside. Grant stood frozen for a moment, touching the spot where she kissed him, as if it was something precious and fragile. When he looked at the car, he saw Leo still asleep in the back seat, his face relaxed and happy, smeared with chocolate. The tears he had held back finally escaped, quiet and abundant. When Grant arrived home with Leo, Vanessa was waiting in the living room, flipping through a magazine with a casual air. She looked up as they walked in, immediately assessing her son's state. His face still showing traces of ice cream despite Grant's efforts to clean him up, his clothes slightly stained with grass and sand. "Looks like someone had fun," she commented, her tone carefully neutral. "Mom," Leo exclaimed, running to her. "I met my sisters. They are super nice. Hannah is so smart and Iris has purple glasses, and they loved my drawing, and we played with aliens and dinosaurs and had ice cream and—" "Breathe, sweetie," Vanessa interrupted, smiling tightly as she smoothed her son's messy hair. "Sounds like you had a big day." "Best day ever," Leo declared emphatically. "Can I see them again next Saturday?" "I promised to bring Roborex because we didn't finish our story and—" "We'll see," Vanessa cut in. "Right now, how about a bath? You're covered in, well, park." "I'll help," Grant offered quickly. "That's not necessary," Vanessa replied, already guiding Leo toward the stairs. "Take these toys upstairs, please." Grant nodded, picking up the bag of toys Leo had dropped at the entrance. As he climbed the stairs, he could hear his son's animated voice recounting every detail of the afternoon to his mother. Later, after Leo finally fell asleep, still talking about his sisters until the very last moment, Grant found Vanessa in the kitchen, holding a glass of red wine, her face a mask of studied calm. "He had fun," she said without looking at Grant. "We all had fun," he replied, keeping his voice low. "The girls loved him." Vanessa took a long sip of wine before finally looking at her husband. "He hasn't stopped talking about them. Not for a minute." Grant didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. "Will this continue? These meetings?" "If the children want to, yes," Grant replied, trying to keep his voice gentle but steady. "They're siblings, Vanessa." She put the glass down on the table harder than necessary, almost spilling the wine. "You chose me." The accusation caught him off guard. "What?" "No, never." "No? For the past weeks you've barely been home. You're always there with them." "I'm trying to fix what I broke," Grant explained, suddenly exhausted. "I'm not choosing anyone. I just want all my children to be part of my life. And us, what about us? You are my family too," he said, frustrated. "Why does it have to be one or the other?" Vanessa let out a bitter laugh. "Because that's what you chose 4 years ago, wasn't it? One or the other?" The words hit Grant like a punch. She was right, of course. He had made exactly that choice, abandoning Claire and the girls to be with Vanessa. "I was wrong," he said after a long silence. "Terribly wrong. And I spent 4 years pretending I wasn't. I can't do that anymore." "Then is that it?" she asked, eyes shining with tears of anger. "You're going to abandon us now, is it our turn?" "No, it's not like that," Grant protested. "Why can't you understand I don't want to abandon anyone?" Vanessa stood, leaving her half-full glass on the table. "If this continues, if you stay divided like this, I will leave. I will take Leo and start over. I'm not going to wait for you to decide which family you prefer." She left the kitchen before Grant could respond, leaving him alone with the ultimatum hanging in the air like a storm cloud. Grant sank into a chair, running his hands over his face. The joy he had felt a few hours earlier, seeing his 3 children playing together, was now stained by fear. He couldn't lose Leo, but he also wouldn't abandon Hannah and Iris again. Vanessa's question echoed in his mind. What will happen when you get tired of this too? It was a legitimate fear, Grant realized, based on his own past actions. He had proven he was the kind of man who abandoned one family for something new, something easier. How could he blame her for fearing he would do it again? But he had changed, or was changing. The man who had felt his heart overflow watching his 3 children together was not the same man who had abandoned 2 little girls 4 years ago. At least, he hoped he wasn't. The house was silent in a way Grant had never experienced before. It wasn't just the absence of sound, it was the absence of life. The absence of Leo running through the halls, his little feet making that distinctive sound on the wooden floor. The absence of laughter, scattered toys, colorful drawings on the refrigerator. Grant walked slowly through his son's room, brushing his fingers over the furniture, as if he could capture some trace of the boy's presence. The bed was neatly made, not by Vanessa before leaving, but by Grant himself, in a pathetic attempt to maintain some order in his crumbling world. Leo's favorite teddy bear was gone, as were most of his clothes and favorite toys, but traces of him remained everywhere. The dinosaur poster on the wall, the rocket-shaped lamp, crayon marks on the desk. It had happened 3 days ago. Grant had come home from work to find Vanessa sitting in the living room, surrounded by suitcases. Leo was in her lap, his eyes red as if he had been crying. "What's going on?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "You made your choice," Vanessa replied, her voice calm but firm. "I made mine." "Vanessa, please. We don't have to do this." "We do," she said, standing and adjusting Leo in her arms. "I meant it when I said I wouldn't wait for you to decide which family you preferred." "I'm not choosing," Grant protested. "I'm trying to be a father to all my children. A part-time father to everyone instead of a full-time father to your own son," she retorted. "It's not fair to Leo." "Dad," Leo called, stretching out his arms to Grant, his lower lip trembling. "I don't want to go." Grant scooped him up, hugging him tightly, feeling the little body tremble against his chest. "It'll be okay, champ," he whispered, though he knew it was a lie. "Daddy will always be near." "Always? Even when I'm at Grandma's house?" Leo asked between sobs. Grant glanced at Vanessa. "We're going to Grandma's house in Portland," she explained. "I already accepted a transfer at work." "Portland, across the country?" The information hit Grant like a physical blow. "You can't do this," he said, his voice low so Leo wouldn't sense the desperation. "You can't just take my son away like that." "I can," Vanessa replied, handing Leo back to him. "Check with your lawyer if you want, but I have primary custody. You can visit, of course." "Vanessa, please, let's talk about it. We can find a solution." "We already have," she said, placing Leo on the floor and taking his hand. "The suitcases are in the car. The flight leaves in 3 hours. 3 hours, Grant repeated incredulously. "You didn't even give me a chance to say goodbye properly." "You have 3 hours now," she replied simply. "The driver's waiting. I'm grabbing the last things from the bedroom." When Vanessa went upstairs, Grant knelt in front of his son, fighting to stay composed. "Leo, listen," he said, holding the boy's small shoulders. "You're going on a trip with Mommy. You'll live at Grandma's for a while." "You're not coming?" Leo asked, eyes wide and tearful. Grant swallowed the lump in his throat. "Not right now, champ, but I'll visit you a lot and we can video chat every day. But what about my sisters?" "I was going to bring Roborex next Saturday." Grant's heart broke a little more. "I'll explain it to them. I'm sure they'll understand." "And will they be sad?" "Yes, they'll miss you," Grant answered honestly. "All of us will." The rest of those 3 hours passed in a blur. Grant tried arguing with Vanessa a few more times, but she was resolute. He then focused on Leo playing with him, storing each laugh in his memory, and then, all too quickly, the time was up. At the airport, Grant hugged his son one last time. "Remember, Daddy loves you so much," he said, his voice thick. "More than anything in the world." "More than the stars?" Leo asked, playing their favorite game. "More than all the stars in the universe," Grant confirmed. "And I'll call you tomorrow as soon as you get there, okay?" Leo nodded, rubbing his eyes. "Promise you'll visit soon." "I promise," Grant said, knowing he would move heaven and earth to keep that promise. And then they were gone. Vanessa leading Leo through the departure gates, the boy looking back one last time, waving. Grant stood, waving back until he could no longer see them. Now, 3 days later, the house still felt like a mausoleum. Grant had slept poorly, eaten little, and spent most of his time talking to lawyers. The news was not good. As Vanessa had said, she had primary custody. He could fight, but it would be difficult. His phone rang, pulling him from dark thoughts. It was Iris. Grant had explained the situation to the girls the day before, in a simplified way, saying only that Leo had moved with his mom to another city. They had looked visibly disappointed. "Hello," he answered, trying to sound more upbeat than he felt. "Dad?" Iris's voice was hesitant. "Are you still coming today, to my recital?" The recital. Grant had promised to attend Iris's performance at school, her first solo in the children's choir. With everything happening, he almost forgot. "Of course I am, Princess," he assured her quickly. "I wouldn't miss it for anything. Really. Because it's okay if you can't. Mom said you're sad because Leo left." Grant felt a wave of gratitude toward Claire, who apparently had explained the situation gently. "Yes, I am sad," he admitted. "But that won't stop me from seeing you sing. I'll be in the front row." "Promise?" "I promise." "What time does it start again?" "At 6, Iris replied, sounding more cheerful. "Don't be late. My song is third." "I'll be there at 5:30, Grant guaranteed, "with flowers." After hanging up, Grant checked the clock. It was 4, enough time to shower, change clothes, and look like a functional human being for Iris's recital. At 5:30 on the dot, Grant stood in the school's auditorium, holding a small bouquet of daisies, Iris's favorite. The auditorium was filling quickly with anxious parents and relatives. Grant scanned the room for Claire and Hannah, finally spotting them near the front. "Can I sit with you?" he asked, approaching hesitantly. Claire looked surprised for a moment but nodded. "Sure." Hannah simply shrugged, her characteristic gesture, but Grant noticed she shifted slightly to make room. "Thanks for coming," Claire said when he sat down. "Iris was worried you wouldn't show up." "I promised," Grant replied simply. "I won't break promises ever again." Claire studied him for a moment but said nothing. Hannah flipped through the program, seemingly uninterested in the conversation. "I heard about Leo," Claire said finally, her voice low. "I'm sorry." Grant nodded, surprised by her sincerity. "Thank you. It's been hard." The recital began before they could continue talking. The children took the stage, all dressed in white and blue, looking like little angels as they stood nervously in formation. Grant spotted Iris immediately, her hair neatly combed, her purple glasses shining under the stage lights. She seemed to look for someone in the audience. When she finally saw them, her face lit up with a radiant smile. Grant waved discreetly, holding up the flowers. When it was Iris's turn to sing her solo, Grant's heart raced. The girl stepped forward, suddenly tiny under the spotlight. There was a moment of silence, and Grant feared she would freeze. But then her clear, sweet voice filled the auditorium, singing a song about stars and dreams. Grant felt tears in his eyes. The lyrics, about looking at the sky and knowing the same stars shine for everyone, no matter how far apart they are, seemed especially meaningful now. He thought of Leo, on the other side of the country, perhaps looking at the same stars tonight. Next to him, he noticed Claire was also emotional, discreetly wiping away a tear. Even Hannah seemed proud, a small smile on her lips as she watched her sister. When the recital ended amid applause, the children were released to find their families. Iris ran toward them, her eyes glowing with excitement. "You came!" she exclaimed, throwing her arms around Grant. "I promised, didn't I?" he said, handing her the flowers. "You were amazing, Iris. Best voice in the whole choir." "I agree," Claire said, embracing her daughter. "We're so proud." "You didn't miss a single note," Hannah added, her compliment more reserved but sincere. "Can I call Leo and tell him?" Iris asked, looking at Grant. "He wanted to come see me sing." Grant felt a tug at his heart. "Of course, sweetheart. I'm sure he'll love hearing how you did." On their way out of the auditorium, Grant suggested, "How about ice cream to celebrate?" Iris immediately looked at her mother, waiting for approval. To Grant's surprise, Claire nodded. "I think our star deserves a celebration." The ice cream shop near the school was crowded with other families had the same idea, but they found a table in the corner. The girls chose extravagant flavors with colorful toppings, while the adults opted for simpler options. As Iris enthusiastically recounted behind-the-scenes details of the recital, and Hannah corrected some minor point, Grant watched the three of them. There was an ease among them, a bond forged by years of mutual trust. Claire was an amazing mother. She always had been. She had raised two extraordinary girls practically on her own, and Grant felt both pride and shame because of that. When the girls went to look more closely at the topping display, Grant seized the moment to talk privately with Claire. "Thank you for letting me be part of this," he said. "It means so much." Claire studied him for a moment. "You seem different," she observed. "Different how?" "I don't know how to explain it. More present, maybe." Grant nodded slowly. "I think I am. I understand better now what matters." Claire hesitated, stirring her melting ice cream. "Will you stop now?" she asked quietly, so the girls wouldn't hear. "Now that Leo is gone?" The question caught him off guard, though it shouldn't have. It was a legitimate concern. He had shown himself to be the kind of man who gives up when things get hard. "No," he replied firmly, "because now I know what losing a child means." Claire met his gaze. There was something new in her eyes. No forgiveness, no, not yet, but perhaps understanding. "I will never abandon you," Grant continued. "Even if you never fully trust me again, even if Hannah never forgives me completely, I will be here. Always." "What happened?" Claire asked. "With Vanessa and Leo, why did she take him?" Grant took a deep breath. "She gave me an ultimatum. She said she wouldn't wait for me to decide which family I preferred, that if I stayed divided like this, she would leave. And you chose not to choose." "I chose to be a father to all my children," Grant corrected. "She couldn't accept that." Claire nodded slowly, digesting the information. "It must be hard for her too." The empathy in Claire's voice surprised Grant. After all he had done, she still had compassion for Vanessa. "It's ironic, isn't it?" he said bitterly. 4 years ago, I abandoned you and the girls for her. Now she's leaving me because I didn't abandon you again." A heavy silence fell between them, the weight of past choices palpable. "Claire," Grant said finally in a whisper, "there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have said before." She looked at him, waiting. "I tried to come back," he said, the words coming with difficulty. 6 months after I left, I looked for you at our old place, but you had already moved." Claire blinked, surprised. You came back?" Grant nodded. "I asked neighbors, Gakern, but no one knew, or didn't want to tell me. I can't blame them." "Why didn't you mention this before?" "Because it wouldn't change anything," he replied honestly. "It wouldn't have made a difference. I gave up too easily. I could have looked harder, hired someone, like I did now. But I didn't." "Why not?" "Because I was a coward," Grant admitted. "Because Vanessa was already pregnant, and it was easier to move on than to face the wreckage. I've blamed myself ever since. Every day." Claire studied him silently, her face unreadable. "Now that I've found you again, I won't let go," Grant continued. "No matter what, you are my family as much as Leo is. Always have been." Something shifted in Claire's eyes, a softening almost imperceptible. It wasn't forgiveness, but maybe a beginning of understanding. "Mom," Iris called, returning to the table. "Can I call Leo now? I want to tell him about the recital." Claire looked at Grant, a silent question in her eyes. He nodded gratefully. "Sure, sweetheart," Claire said. Let's use your father's phone. I'm sure Leo will love hearing about how amazing you were. As Grant dialed the number Vanessa had given for contact, he noticed Claire's gaze, still cautious, still wounded, but something new there. A half-open door, perhaps. His heart still ached for Leo, for the distance. But as he watched Iris animatedly talk to her brother and Hannah lean in to listen, he felt a certainty. This time, he would not leave. No matter how hard, how many trips he had to make, how long it took, he would stay. Because now he truly understood what it meant to lose a child. And he would never let it happen again. Autumn gave way to winter, and with the changing seasons came a transformation in the dynamic between Grant and his daughters. The occasional visits became part of their daily routine. It wasn't a planned transition, it just happened, one small change at a time, until his presence was as natural as the sunrise. It started with homework help. Grant discovered that Hannah had trouble with math, while Iris struggled with science. He offered to help first once a week, then twice, until he was there almost every afternoon, sitting at the kitchen table with the girls, explaining fractions or the water cycle with a patience he didn't know he had. Claire watched from a distance, initially wary, then gradually more relaxed. She set clear but fair boundaries. Grant could be present, could participate, but some things were still exclusively hers, a delicate balance that everyone respected. The daily calls to Leo became part of the routine too. The girls always wanted to join, telling their younger brother about their day, asking about his... The distance was hard, but Grant kept his promise. He traveled to Portland every 2 weeks to spend the weekend with his son. Sometimes he brought photos or short videos of his sisters, which Leo watched repeatedly until the next visit. Vanessa remained distant but civil. Seeing Grant's dedication, at least she stopped threatening to cut off his access to Leo completely. It was a small but significant progress. On a particularly cold Wednesday morning, Grant arrived earlier than usual at the apartment. He had promised to make breakfast for the girls. A small tradition started in the past weeks. Claire had a morning shift at the diner and was grateful for the help. "Good morning," he greeted as he entered, shaking off some snowflakes from his coat. "Right on time," Claire replied, already dressed for work. "They're still getting ready. Iris can't find her purple sock." "I'll help," Grant offered, hanging up his coat. Claire nodded, grabbing her bag. "There are eggs in the fridge and we're running low on bread. I'll be back at 2. We'll be fine," he assured her. An awkward moment passed, the hesitation that appears in transitions when one person leaves and the other takes over. They were no longer a couple, but not just exes either. They were partners in a new arrangement they were still learning to navigate. "Thank you," Claire said finally. "For being here." Grant only nodded, understanding the weight of those simple words. After Claire left, he checked on the girls. He found Iris rummaging through the sock drawer, clearly frustrated. "Need help, princess?" he asked from the doorway. "Dad!" she exclaimed, adjusting her glasses. "I can't find my purple sock. The one with stars." Let's see," Grant said, pretending to think deeply. "Have you looked under the bed?" Iris's eyes widened. "Not yet. You think it's there? There's only one way to find out." Together, they bent down to look under the bed. To Iris's delight, there was the sock, along with a few colored pencils and a forgotten book. "How did you know?" she asked, amazed. Grant smiled. "Dad magic." Hannah appeared in the doorway, already dressed and ready, watching the scene with a softened expression that was becoming common. "Breakfast in 10 minutes, Grant announced. "I'm making pancakes." "With chocolate chips?" Iris asked hopefully. "If you promise not to tell your mum," he whispered conspiratorially. "She'll know anyway," Hannah said pragmatically. "Iris gets hyper when she eats chocolate." Grant laughed. "Then we'll do half with chocolate, half plain. A compromise." In the kitchen, as he prepared the batter, Grant listened to the girls talking. Moments like this, simple, everyday, became precious. Every fragment of normalcy was a treasure. The pancakes were a hit. Grant had perfected the recipe, learning exactly how each girl liked hers. For Iris, thinner with syrup. For Hannah, thicker with just a touch of sugar. "Dad," Iris said between bites, "will you pick us up from school today?" "Of course," he replied. And then we can stop by the library to return those books if you want. We need to finish our science project too, Hannah reminded him. It's due Friday. Grant nodded. I bought the materials we were missing. They're in the car. As they ate, they talked about the day, the last call with Leo, and the school project. It was a normal conversation, the kind families have every morning. For Grant, it was extraordinary because of its ordinariness. After they finished, he helped pack their backpacks, checked homework, found Hannah's lost glove, and adjusted Iris's scarf. You're going to be late, he observed. Let's take the car today. On the way, Iris talked about an astronomy book, while Hannah gazed out the window, silent but attentive. Grant watched them in the rearview mirror, feeling a wave of gratitude so intense it almost hurt. When they arrived, he parked and turned to look at them. Have a great day, he said, as he did every morning. I'll be here at 3 to pick you up. Promise? Iris asked, a habit she hadn't yet dropped. I promise, Grant said seriously. I'll never make you wait. Iris smiled and stepped out of the car after giving her father a quick kiss on the cheek. Hannah followed, but paused a moment before getting out. You're different, she observed, not for the first time. How am I different? Grant asked. Hannah shrugged, a gesture that now held less indifference and more reflection. Just different, more present. Grant nodded. I missed you so much for years, Hannah, even when I pretended I didn't. She studied him with discerning eyes that seemed to see right through him. Now that I'm back, he continued, you'll have the best of me. Not just what's left after work, the best. Hannah was silent for a long moment. Then, to Grant's surprise, she reached out and briefly touched his hand. You're starting, she said simply. Keep going. With that, she climbed out of the car, joining her sister. The two walked together toward the school gate, Iris skipping, Hannah in a more measured stride. Grant watched until they disappeared into the building. Hannah's words echoed, You're starting. Keep going. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't forgetting. It was something just as valuable. Acknowledgement. An acknowledgement that, despite the past, he was on the right path now. On the drive to work, Grant thought about all the stories he would read at night, the homework he would help with, the meals they would prepare together. He thought about his next visit to Leo, the photos he would take to show the girls. He thought about Claire's expression earlier, no longer bitter or resentful, but cautiously hopeful. You're starting. Keep going. He intended to do exactly that. Keep going, one day at a time, one story at a time, one homework session at a time, building, brick by brick, the father his daughters deserved. The routine Grant had established with Hannah and Iris solidified with every day. Pancake mornings, homework afternoons, bedtime stories, these small traditions became anchors. At the same time, the daily calls with Leo continued, though Grant noticed a growing sadness in his son's voice despite his best efforts to sound cheerful. It was a difficult balance, being there for his daughters in one city and his son in another. The bi-weekly trips to Portland were exhausting but necessary. Grant rearranged his schedule, drove as much as he could on Friday nights, slept in cheap motels along the way, anything to maximize his time with Leo on weekends. One Thursday night, while preparing dinner for the girls, the phone rang. It was Vanessa. Grant wasn't used to hearing from her outside their arranged times. Hello, he answered, worry tightening in his chest. Is everything okay? Is Leo all right? There was a moment of silence, followed by a heavy sigh. Physically, yes, Vanessa finally replied, her voice sounding unusually vulnerable. Emotionally, I don't know what to do anymore, Grant. Grant signaled to Hannah to take over the salad and stepped into the hallway. What happened? He asked, his heart racing. Leo only talks about you and his sisters, Vanessa said, her voice cracking slightly. All the time. At school, at home, even in the bath. He cries every night, asking to come back home. Grant closed his eyes, feeling a mix of pain and relief. Pain for his son's suffering, relief that he wasn't the only one missing him. I've tried everything, Vanessa continued. Activities, new toys, even a therapist. Nothing works, he just won't adjust here. What do you want me to do? Grant asked carefully. Another long sigh. I think you need to come. Not on your scheduled weekend, but now. He needs to see you. I can catch a flight tomorrow morning, Grant replied immediately. I'll be there early afternoon. Thank you, Vanessa said, and Grant realized she was crying softly. I know it's not easy for you either. After hanging up, Grant returned to the kitchen where Hannah and Iris watched him with concerned expressions. It's Leo, Iris asked, always intuitive. Is he sick? No, Princess, he's not sick, Grant said, sitting down. But he's very sad and misses you. I need to go see him tomorrow. But tomorrow you are going to take us to the movies, Hannah reminded him, her voice neutral but her eyes showing disappointment. I know, and I'm so sorry, Grant said. I promise I'll make it up when I get back, but right now Leo needs me. To his surprise, it was Hannah who nodded first. Okay, we understand. Can we make a drawing for you to take to him? Iris asked, already grabbing pencils. Grant felt pride and gratitude for his daughters. That would be perfect. Later that night, after the girls went to bed, Grant explained the situation to Claire. To his relief, she was understanding. Go, she said simply. He needs you. Thank you, Grant replied. I'll try to be back Sunday night. Claire studied him for a moment. It's not easy, is it, being a father in 2 cities? No, he admitted, but it's what I have to do. She nodded, newfound understanding in her eyes. The girls will be fine. Go take care of your son. The flight to Portland the next day felt endless. Grant could barely work on his laptop. In his bag, he carried the drawings made by Hannah and Iris, a little bridge between siblings. When he finally arrived at Vanessa's mother's house, a well-kept old home in a Portland suburb, his heart pounded. Vanessa greeted him, looking tired but relieved. He doesn't know you're coming, she explained as she led him inside. I thought it would be a surprise. Where is he? Grant asked, anxious. In the backyard, playing. Grant followed Vanessa to the back deck. There, in the fenced yard, was Leo, sitting on a swing, his feet dragging on the ground without actually swinging. The sight broke Grant's heart. Leo, Vanessa called softly. Look who came to see you. The boy turned slowly until his eyes landed on Grant. For a second, he seemed not to believe it. Then his face transformed, eyes wide, his smile lighting up. Dad! He shouted, jumping off the swing and running so fast he almost tripped. Grant knelt, opening his arms. Leo threw himself into his father's chest, small sobs shaking his body. You came, he repeated. I knew you would. Of course I came, champ, Grant replied, his voice thick. I heard you missed me. Leo pulled back just enough to look at his father. I want to go home, Dad, he said with a seriousness beyond his 5 years. I don't like it here. I want to be near you and my sisters. Grant noticed Vanessa step back to give them privacy. He sat on the deck steps with Leo in his lap. I know it's hard, Leo, he began carefully. Changes are always hard. Will you forget me too? Leo asked suddenly, his eyes locked on his father's, full of fear. Like you forgot my sisters before. The question caught him off guard. Clearly, Leo understood more than they realized. Grant took a deep breath and held his son's shoulders, looking him in the eyes. Never, he replied with conviction. I will never forget you, Leo. Never. Your mom and I aren't together anymore, but you are my son, that never changes. Even if I live far away. Even if I live far away, Grant confirmed. Look, I know it's hard to understand now, but sometimes adults have to live in different places. It doesn't change how much I love you. But I want to live near you, Leo insisted, tears starting again, and near my sisters. I know, champ, Grant said, holding him tight. And we'll find a way to be closer, I promise. But for now, whenever you feel lonely, you can call me any time or day or night, and I'll keep coming to see you as much as I can. Leo nodded against his father's chest, not completely convinced, but somewhat comforted. I have a surprise for you, Grant said, reaching into his bag. Hannah and Iris sent these. Leo's eyes lit up when he saw the drawings. One by Iris was full of stars and planets, with 3 figures holding hands under a big sun. Hannah's was more detailed, a park scene with 3 children playing. They made these for me, Leo asked, amazed. Yes, they miss you too, Grant confirmed. The two hugged, and in that moment, Grant felt his bond with his son strengthen, stretched by distance but unbroken, like a resilient elastic. That night and the next day were dedicated entirely to Leo. Grant read stories, built blanket forts, played video games, anything to see his son smile. Vanessa kept her distance, but Grant saw worry in her eyes as she watched their interactions. On Saturday night, after Leo finally fell asleep exhausted, Vanessa invited Grant to talk on the porch. "He seems like a different kid when you're around," she remarked, pouring 2 glasses of wine. "Kids are resilient," Grant replied. "He'll adapt eventually." Vanessa took a sip of wine before speaking. "I don't think he will." Grant looked at her, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I think we made a mistake," she said quietly. "I made a mistake bringing him so far from you. It's not working." "What do you suggest then?" She exhaled deeply. "I'm thinking of moving back. Not to the same house, of course, but back to the same city, so he can be near you and his sisters." Grant stood momentarily speechless, stunned. "That would be better for him," Vanessa continued. "And in the end, that's what matters, right?" "Yes," Grant agreed, still processing. "That's what matters." 3 weeks later, Vanessa and Leo were back, settled in an apartment less than 20 minutes from Claire's house. It wasn't easy. Vanessa had to arrange a transfer back, find a new place. But Leo's behavior changed immediately and dramatically. Grant could now set a new routine. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays with Hannah and Iris. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and alternating Saturdays with Leo. Sundays became the day when all of them could be together. It was on one of those Sundays, a sunny spring day, that Grant gathered his 3 children for a special outing. They started in the park, where Leo proudly showed his sisters how he could ride a bike without training wheels, a new skill he had practiced with Grant over the previous weeks. "Look, Hannah, look, Iris!" he shouted, pedaling in ever wider circles. "I'm as fast as a rocket." "Great job, Leo," Iris encouraged energetically. Even Hannah seemed genuinely impressed. "You learned quickly," she commented. Soon the girls jumped on their own bikes, gifts from Grant the month before, and the 3 of them raced along the paved trails, Hannah in front, Leo in the middle, and Iris behind. Grant jogged alongside them, marveling at the sight of his 3 kids together, laughing and calling out to each other. After biking, they went for ice cream, a Sunday tradition. Each had their favorite flavor: chocolate for Leo, strawberry for Iris, and vanilla with caramel drizzle for Hannah. At the ice cream shop, Grant noticed a familiar figure watching through the window. Claire stood outside as if passing by, but her eyes were fixed on the children. There was something different in her gaze, a softness, an acceptance that hadn't been there before. Grant gestured for her to join them, and to his surprise, she came inside. "Mom," Iris exclaimed gleefully, "want some ice cream too?" "No, thank you, sweetie," Claire replied, sitting at the edge of the table. "I just wanted to see how you all were." "We're having the best day," Leo declared, his face covered in chocolate. "I rode my bike and now we're having ice cream." Claire smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her face. "I can see that." As the children chatted happily, Claire and Grant exchanged a look. "They're happy," she said softly. Grant nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "And so am I. I'll never fail them again." It was a promise, to Claire and to himself, a promise he intended to keep for the rest of his life. When they finished their ice cream, the children ran outside, eager to continue their adventures for the day. On the walk back to the car, Grant watched as Hannah instinctively held Leo's hand to cross the street, while Iris clung happily to his arm, chattering about where they should go next. Claire walked a bit behind, watching the 4 of them. For a moment, Grant feared seeing pain or regret in her eyes. Instead, he saw something that looked very much like peace. The family they were now was not conventional. It was patched together, stitched from broken pieces, united by new and better choices. It wasn't perfect. There were scars, visible seams, but it was whole. And for Grant, that was all that mattered. Because in the end, it's not about where the story began, but about how we choose to keep writing it. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.